Jeffrey Paul Ross from nextlevelguitar.com. We've been getting a lot of requests for lessons on chicken picking guitar. So that's what we're going to work on now. The first thing I'd like to say, for this style of music, there's really only one guitar that really works, and that's the Fender Telecaster or the Telecaster type guitars. I know there are guys that do it on the Strat, and there's some guys that do it on a Strat and it sounds great, like Jerry McGee from the Ventures, great chicken picking player. But mostly this is a Tele thing. And some of the guys that, well, the guy that basically started this style back in the 50s was James Burton. And then you have guys like Albert Lee, who's probably one of the best guitar players in the world. Don Rich from the Buck Owens Band, Roy Nichols from Merle Haggard's band. And you have modern guys that are, you would think, are pretty far removed from country music, like John Five from Marilyn Manson or Zakk Wylde. These are like shred guys that appreciate Tele chicken picking style guitar. So we're going to start with a few examples today in the key of A. And first we'll talk about the right hand technique. There's maybe 3 basic ways you can do this. And I've heard guys do it all and it sounds great. It's your preference. My main preference for doing the chicken picking would be the thumb, the meat of your thumb, and your first finger. Because with your thumb you can really make that G string pop. Just kind of pop and sputter, kind of like Johnny Guitar Watson. So that's the first part of it. Then you have your first finger, and you can do something like that. Now we're in the key of A, so we're up here at the 5th fret, and we'll be doing this little double stop thing. And you'll start with your second finger on the G string on the 6th fret, and that is a C sharp note. And then the next note with your first finger on the 5th fret on the high E string, it's an A note. And you can do kind of a triplet figure here on the G string. And you kind of mute it to give it more of a percussive, and that's what kind of gives it the, yeah, that's why they call it chicken picking. Here's the deal with the chicken picking sound. As you can see, I've got my thumb here on the G string, and I'm picking with my thumb and my finger, and you can practice doing a triplet. So you don't want to go, you want to get it muted. That kind of gives it the clucking chicken sound. Now when you play a note, you know, rather than totally fretting the note, you can kind of dampen that a little bit with your left hand. Now while we got the camera in close, I'll explain some other ways guitar players do this. Some like to do it with a pick, and they mute. Yeah. I've heard guys do that, and it sounds great. James Burton and Albert Lee and me mostly did it with a flat pick with your, you know, in your thumb and your first finger, and then your other fingers were left to pick the other string. And it's almost like banjo picking, except you're not using a thumb pick. And I know there are people that use a thumb pick for this, and it sounds great. It's just whatever works for you. My favorite, once again, is the bare thumb, because you get that, it really makes the G string sputter. So you got that way, the flat pick, muting it with your palm, or that's with the flat pick, and basically the same technique as doing it like this with your thumb. We'll come up with a little exercise to practice, and these will be what they refer to as double stops. Like this one that we discussed, and then you can go down a whole step. Basically, be like a little G double stop. And then, now that once again is on the G and the E string, and then you're going to come up to the D and the B string, and you'll have your second and your third finger on the 7th fret. Your second finger will be on the A note on the D string. Your third finger will be on the 7th fret on the B string on the F sharp note. And you're skipping the G string, and you can just kind of mute that with the back of your second finger, you know, so it doesn't ring out. You don't want that. And just drop that down a whole step. And then the last one is like a little D dog chord. And that's with your second finger on the 4th fret on the D string on the F sharp note. You skip the G string, and with your first finger you will be on the D note on the 3rd fret on the B string. So that whole exercise once more. This is just a basic starting point, and we'll be going over some other stuff down the road with other lessons. I'm trying to, there's some records you could look for. There is an album called Boot Hill by the Buckaroos. It's Buck Owens band without Buck Owens, featuring Don Rich. There's a song called Picnickin', where the whole song is him chicken picking. There's an album with James Burton and Ralph Mooney, the steel player, and I can't remember the title. It's something like Corn Pickin' and Chicken, something like that. Yeah, I wish I could remember the title, but I can't. Anything by Albert Lee, anything by James Burton. Let's see. Also, there's a Led Zeppelin tune. I think it's called Dire Maker, or Dia Maker. I think it's on Led Zepp 2, or I don't remember. But anyway, you can look for it on iTunes maybe. But Jimmy Page was a fan of chicken picking. And Jimmy Page also had a telly with a B-bender in it too. So, yeah, so once again, this is Jeffrey Paul Ross for nextlevelguitar.com, reminding you to go to our website. We have 850 different styles of lessons for you to check out, beginning, intermediate, and advanced. So we'll see you next time.